Hi, so for some context, I will tell you guys what happened 8 years ago when my parents first cut me out of the family. So here's the thing, it didn't exactly come out of nowhere. My parents and I had been having trouble for a pretty long time, pretty much ever since high school. And with time, it had only gotten worse because I could see very clearly that they preferred my sister over me. And it just didn't sit right with me. My older sister is 4 years older than me and has always been the darling golden child of my family. In fact, I have even received hints from my parents that they never even intended on having me, that it was pretty much unintentional, but because my grandparents wanted another child, they had to go through with my birth. So clearly, I was never really wanted right from the beginning. But I don't think that after they had me, that was a valid reason for them to have treated me the way they have. Because I can tell you guys for a fact, I don't think they have ever been fair to me right from when I was very young. Earlier, I used to do everything in my power to be a good kid, to impress my parents somehow, so they would value me because I thought that I was the problem here. But as I grew up, I started to see things for what they really were. And that's when the problems started because they couldn't handle the fact that I could now stand up for myself against them. So anyway, there was a lot of friction, and my sister just added fuel to the fire. She would do everything in her power to get on my nerves. She would pick fights with me on purpose, and the worst part was that compared to me, she was just a loser. I'm not saying it to be mean, that's just a fact. She dropped out of college in her first year, and even though I had believed just for a couple of months that I had finally gotten rid of her, she was back again, and worse than ever. She was entitled, and my parents always spoiled her, so she decided to start a business of her own without any practical knowledge or real life experience, and of course it failed. Then she decided to take a break for 3 years. So she was just sitting at home unemployed and getting on my nerves. Thankfully, I left for college soon afterwards, and my parents, even though they don't like me, decided to pay for it back then because they didn't want me to take out a student loan or anything since they were very sure that I wouldn't be able to pay it back, and it would probably reflect badly on them. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. That was their concern. The real reason why they paid for me to go to college at all, or at least offered to do so, was because they were worried about their image, because they believed that I deserved it as their daughter. Also, I guess the fact that my sister didn't go to college helped me out, because if they had paid for her, they probably wouldn't have paid for me. But anyway, the bottom line is, they paid for me, and in the beginning, things were going smoothly. Unfortunately, I decided to come back home for Thanksgiving, and that's when everything went downhill. I ended up having a huge fight with my sister, since she was getting on my nerves, and I was already pretty stressed out because of all the college classes and assignments that I had to do, so I couldn't take it anymore. In the past, I wouldn't have reacted, but I don't know what happened to me that day. I just ended up snapping at her, and we got into a really terrible argument, and I called her a loser. I reminded her of the fact that she had one failed business, no college degree, and no job, and was still depending on her parents for money and a place to live, and would probably continue to do so all her life because she was nothing but a loser. It was pretty harsh, but I think she needed that wake-up call, and I didn't feel sorry about it at all. Even when my parents told me to apologize to her, I didn't, because I don't think she deserved it, and I still stand by it. But unfortunately, I didn't see how that was going to backfire on me, because literally 3 days later, my parents were knocking at my door late in the night, telling me that my sister had told them everything about me, and they wanted me to come out immediately and speak to them. I was working on an assignment at the time. I still remember that. But they kept banging on my door, so I got annoyed and I had to come out to talk to them. And then they showed me a bunch of online documents. I couldn't make heads or tails of it at first. But then I saw that they were supposed to be college transcripts and everything. And they were supposed to be mine, even though I knew for a fact that I had not let anybody access them. So I had no idea how they had this. And after looking closer, I realized that the grades were also inaccurate because we had had very few opportunities to be graded until then. And I had scored well enough in all my subjects, so I had no idea what had gone wrong. I tried to ask my parents what was happening, and they told me that my sister had apparently hacked into the college system and had managed to access my college transcripts because she thought there was something wrong with my behavior. And she believed that there was something I was not telling them. All of a sudden, everything makes sense. And I knew for a fact that my sister probably edited all of this, and once I came up with the theory in my head, it didn't take me long to recognize the shoddy editing job that she had done. So I tried to tell my parents what I thought, even though I already knew that it was going to be in vain, because they were never going to believe that my sister would do anything wrong. But still, given the situation, I thought it would be worth a try. So I told them, and that ended up infuriating them even more, and they told me that they couldn't believe I was trying to pass this off by blaming it on my sister. I tried to explain to them that she had edited all of it, and I even tried to prove it to them by showing them my real college transcripts. But they did not believe me and said I was probably lying to them. As a last resort, I even told them to contact my college authorities if they don't believe me. And they said that they were not going to do that because that was only going to make them feel humiliated in the end. And basically, they told me that they trusted my sister implicitly. They said she knew for a fact I was a failure, and apparently that's why I was projecting and had had that huge fight with her the other day and called her so many things. I tried really hard to explain to them what was going on, but they were just not having it. It was all pointless, and after a while, I realized that, so I stopped trying. They told me that my visit was over, and they wanted me to go back to college and figure out a way to pay for myself, to put myself through college, because they were not entertaining this anymore. Honestly, I didn't even feel bad. I was just exhausted. They told me that I could stay the night and leave the next morning, but I chose not to do that. I packed my stuff up and crashed at a friend's place and tried to figure out what I would do for the future. Thankfully, my grandmother came to my rescue at that point. She was, and still is, my only surviving grandparent, and we had always had a very strong relationship because I had lost all my other grandparents over the course of several years by then. But even apart from that, she had always been my favorite, and I hers. In fact, she had even told me several times that she could see that my parents did not treat me well. And she had told me to come stay with her, and I knew that my parents would probably not even miss me. But then I didn't want to be a burden on her because I knew that she had a limited amount of money. And even though she was more than ready to take me on as a responsibility, I didn't want that for her. She didn't give up though, and in the end I had to rely on her because I just couldn't go anywhere else. So after spending the night at my friend's place, I went to my grandmother. I told her everything, and she decided to immediately cut my parents off after trying to speak to them and make them see sense, but in vain. And then I told her that I wanted her help in trying to take out a student loan. I just wanted her to co-sign it, and without any questions, she did exactly what I asked her to. And I will forever be grateful to hear that because I think without her help, I never would have been able to put myself through college. But I did. I'll leave out everything in between for you guys to fill in the blank yourselves, because it's a lot of boring stuff about how hard I had to work. But mind you, I did have to work hard. Along with my education, I also had to deal with my other expenses, so I had to work alongside college. But thankfully, that meant that by the time I graduated, I did have some work experience, so it was not difficult for me to find a job. And eventually, I was able to climb my way up with a lot of hard work and efforts, and today I'm leading my own team in my company, and I'm one of the youngest people in a position like this at the age of 26. And I'm really proud of myself. And I know that there is more to come. I'll either continue working here and get to the top, or I'll start my own company. But I know for a fact that whatever it is, I'll always strive to be at the top. Anyway, I would like to say that I've been pretty successful, and life has been good to me in general, because in spite of everything that I have been through, I have managed to come out of it and end up in a good place. It's all thanks to my grandma, and no thanks to the rest of my family. So I guess you guys can understand why I would never be interested in speaking to them or having any contact with them. But I guess my parents have finally realized that they bet on the wrong horse, because recently they tried to get in touch with me, and I had to shut them down because I have no interest in having anything to do with them. And also, the only reason that they were contacting me was because they needed my help to bail them out. I won't get into the details, but basically, after years of being unemployed, my parents had started dropping hints 3 years ago that my sister should really consider getting a job and supporting herself, or at least contributing to the family. So she decided to start another business, and like total fools, my parents decided to support this time as well and invested in it, even after she had let them know the previous time. I don't know why they thought that this time she would do better, because it's not like she had done anything productive in the past couple of years before starting her business. She had not taken any course. She had not worked anywhere. She had only done a few freelancing jobs here and there and gone out on a date after date, looking for a rich, handsome husband. And in her free time, she would try to make it as a social media influencer, but nothing else that would actually help her learn anything real. So naturally, this time, even though she started a cafe, it did decently for the first couple of months because of the novelty factor, I guess. But then everything started declining, but she didn't give up. She kept going, and they kept putting money into this business, knowing that it was failing, and now they are in debt. And they want me to help them out to clear it, because my dad is about to retire. My mom hasn't worked for the past 10 years, and they don't want to dip into their savings. Expecting my sister to be helpful at all, that is simply out of the question. So that just leaves me. So they reached out to me. They wrote an email to me and said that they had heard from the rest of the family about how much I had achieved. They were really proud of me and everything, and they were very sorry about how they treated me in the past, and they were really ashamed to be asking me for help, but they needed me to bail them out because they were in a very dire position here. Earlier, I thought I was going to ignore it, but then, just for my own satisfaction, I decided to reply to them, and I told them that I would love to help them, but unfortunately, I don't really trust what they're telling me. Just like they didn't trust me back then when they had cut me out of the family. So they might be lying to me this time to get money out of me. Who knows? It was petty, but it was quite satisfactory, and I sent that to them. And honestly, I thought that my grandma would be happy about it. So I told her, but she told me that she didn't really approve of what I had done. She thought that it would have been better for me to just let it go, for me to not respond and be the bigger person here. And I think that's coming from someone who is much older and much more experienced than I am. So it's not like I picked a fight with her or anything, and anyway, I love her too much to do that. I value her opinion too much to start fighting with her over something like this. But it really made me think. Honestly, I don't think that I did anything wrong. I think they totally deserved it and had it coming, because how dare they think that they can just stroll back into my life after 8 years of no contact and no help, and so many years before that of treating me like crap. It's just not done. And I thought that they had to know that, but at the same time, I feel like my grandma also has a point. I should have probably dealt with it in a dignified way, and I probably shouldn't have stooped to their level or something. I don't know. I'm a bit conflicted about this, so what do you guys think? AITA for telling my parents that I don't trust them, just to put them in their place and get back at them. Edit. Okay, so a lot of people had a bunch of questions about whether I had actually even seen my parents in the past 8 years or not. And the answer to that is yes. Like you guys have speculated. I have seen them several times at family events, and they have always ignored me, even until recently. Last time I saw them was about 6 months ago. My cousin got engaged, so they were there, and they could have come and said hi to me if they really regretted anything. But like every other time, they just ignored me and pretended I wasn't even there. The rest of the family knows this, so nobody really says anything about it. A few people really did try to play mediator and sort things out for us, but my parents could not be forced to talk to me. I still don't know if they really believed that my sister had been telling the truth about my college transcripts or not. But I don't care anymore. I think we are way beyond that point. I think after a while, even if they figured out that she had been lying, or maybe they knew that all along, I don't know, it didn't matter to them because they just wanted a way to get rid of me, and they had found it. It was as simple as that. But coming back to my original point, I think that if they were really sorry, they would have spoken to me beforehand, and they wouldn't have waited to contact me when they actually needed my help. This is so transparent. Anybody would be able to see through it. And obviously even my grandma knows it, which is why she said that I should have just let it go and not reply to them at all. If she believed that they were sorry, she would have said that I should have taken that into consideration, but I guess even she knows. Update 1. Hey everybody, so thank you so much for all the advice I received here, for all the comments and everything. It really helped me make up my mind about what I felt about the situation, and I have realized that I don't feel very sorry. The only thing that I was feeling bad about was that I might have disappointed my grandma. But I decided to speak to her about it, like everybody in the comments said. And I told her that while I do respect her opinion, I do respect her experience and her level of maturity. I did feel like this was something that I really had to say and get out of my system, and so I did things my way. I thought that she was going to disagree with me there, but she told me I was young, and obviously whatever I had faced, it was far worse than anything that she had ever gone through, so she had no right to tell me what I should do or what I shouldn't. But she just shared her personal feelings, and she understands and respects the fact that I have chosen to stick to it. She also told me that she really values the fact that I respect her opinion so much, and that's all that matters to her. Everything else is irrelevant. So yeah, my grandma and I are doing pretty well. There are no bad vibes here. Not that I expected it in the first place. With my parents, though, boy, that's a different story altogether. Obviously, they did not like the email I sent back to them, and they wrote back to me yesterday telling me that they had felt really disappointed when they read what I had to say. And they couldn't believe I was acting like this, being so petty and disrespectful towards people who had raised me. I was like, what? Were they referring to themselves? Because I think I had pretty much raised myself, since they barely had any time for me. Everything was for my sister all the time. So yeah, I really don't think that they were talking about me. I definitely don't buy that. And anyway, even if they had, so what? They were my parents. They had to raise me. They didn't do me a favor, and it's totally unfair to expect me to bail them out in their times of trouble, when in the past 8 years, they have never even bothered to check on me even once, never bothered to look back and help me out or see how I'm doing. No, they just wanted a reason to kick me out of their lives, and they did that. So now, they have lost every single right to have any sort of expectation from me. So I did not even bother to reply to them because why? Why should I respond to them? They have never done anything to earn it, and I don't really care if I disappoint them or not, because they mean nothing to me. It sounds really disrespectful coming from their own daughter, but I don't care because they have never treated me like their own daughter. They've always had only one daughter, and now they can reap the consequences of their actions. Like I said, they bet on the wrong horse, and now they have to deal with whatever circumstances they're in on their own. They shouldn't look to me for help. So yeah, I have no regrets about what I did, and I really hope that they take this as a lesson and remember it forever. As for my sister, I have zero sympathy for her, because while I know that letting go of your business and being in debt and all that can be really difficult, I think she has brought it on herself. She's arrogant, she's entitled, and on top of that, she has never had to face any sort of real issues, thanks to our parents, who have always sheltered her and protected her from everything. But this, I think she's responsible for it herself, and to a certain extent, my parents are also guilty for creating this situation, because none of them have ever seen things as they are, and have always been ultra optimistic about my sister's capabilities. So, well, this is where they are now, and they have to accept it. Update 2. Okay, so thank you so much for all the support I received on my previous post. I was quite overwhelmed, I have to say. Anyway, it's been a couple of days since my last update, and today my parents reached out to me again, and this time it was on my phone number. They called me while I was at work, and at first I didn't pick up, but they kept calling me, so eventually I had to answer, and it was from an unrecognized number. So I didn't know it was them on the other end. I was pretty annoyed, as it is, and then when I picked up the call and my mom started speaking, I immediately hung up. It obviously took me a couple of seconds because it really took me by shock. I hadn't expected that, but then they started calling me again and I had to block their number. I'm pretty sure that it must be some stupid family member who had given out my contact info to these people. And I'm just hoping that nobody has told them my address or anything, because I don't want my parents showing up at my house. I know that a lot of people might think I'm being way too harsh or whatever, but I have no interest in reconciling with my parents. I honestly don't. So when they called me and I hung up, I blocked them immediately afterwards, and then I tried to get back to work. But I just couldn't, so I decided to take the rest of the day off and just head back home, because I was already feeling very uneasy and I couldn't focus on work anyway at that point in time, so I just decided to go back home. It happened right on time as well, because just like 15 minutes after I had left, one of my coworkers called me to tell me that my parents were trying to call me at my workplace. They were on the phone with the receptionist and were trying to get through to me, but I was obviously not available since I had gone back home. But they were still not willing to let it go. My coworker informed me that they had called 3 times by then, and they were considering blocking that number because it was getting inconvenient. And that was obviously very embarrassing, and I had to apologize and tell them that they were free to do so. I had nothing to do with my parents, and it was just very shameful to be associated with something like that. But in a way, I was also kind of glad that I was not physically present there at that point, because I think then it might have been more embarrassing for me. At least by leaving earlier, I was able to escape any bigger issue. Anyway, I've been at home for a couple of hours now, and I've told my grandma everything, and she's fuming, just as I am, because calling me on my personal number is something, but then trying to bother me at my workplace and getting my coworkers and receptionist involved in all this drama, that's just insane. I don't know why they would do something like this. They should have some self-respect and dignity of their own as well, but I guess not. Anyway, I can't exactly do anything about the fact that they have my contact info now, but I have told everybody in the rest of the family not to give out my contact info to my parents or my sister, because obviously it's not ethical, knowing the circumstances, and I can't believe that I have to say it after so long. I mean, it's been 8 years that we have not been on good terms, so I think it's pretty much a given by now. But anyway, somebody still did this stupid thing, so this had to be said. Anyway, I just hope that things work out and they leave me alone because I really don't need this kind of drama and negativity in my life right now. I'm doing well for myself, and they don't need to be a part of my life. Not now, and maybe not ever, unless they truly decide to come around and apologize from the bottom of their heart. Not just because they need my help. Then I might at least consider reconciling, but right now, yeah, there's just no chance. Update 3. Hi, so it's been 3 weeks since my last update, and so far my parents have not tried to contact me again. Last time that I had any sort of interaction with them, one-sided of course, was the day that they tried to call me at my workplace. Late at night, around 11, they sent me another email saying that they were very disheartened to know that I had taken such measures to keep them out of my life, even though they were trying their very best to try and apologize and make it up to me. But since it was clear that I had no interest in reconciling with them, they were going to give up now, because they did not want to keep compromising their own dignity and keep trying to speak to somebody who was clearly not interested in having anything to do with them, regardless of their familial ties. I mean, that's just ridiculous, because how come these familial ties that they're talking about did not come into action for the past 8 years and only come into play when they needed my help? I mean, they must really think that I'm an idiot if they thought I was going to fall for something like this. But anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter, because I did not respond to them, and that was that. They have not reached out to me since then, and I'm hoping it stays that way now. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.